This video is all about the conditional, and in this video you'll learn what conditional is, you'll learn how to write it symbolically, and how to find its truth value. All right, as kids, you're very familiar with the conditional, and I would be willing to bet you've already heard at least one conditional at some point during your day today. A conditional is any compound statement that joins two other statements together in the form if P then Q. And where I can think about this is your parents saying to you, if you take out the garbage, then you can watch TV. If you clean your room, then you can play video games. Again, as a parent, I use these all the time, and even as a teacher. The symbol that we're going to use for this if-then statement is the single arrow. Sometimes it can be read P implies Q. The first part of the statement is called the hypothesis. The second part of the statement is called the conclusion. I'm going to think about a conditional almost like a promise. And again, I make these all, if you do your homework, then you'll do well on the test. So we see these everywhere in the world, all around us. As far as the truth table for the conditional, I'm going to tell you the only time the conditional is false is when we're given a true hypothesis, but the conclusion is false. As for why, I'll talk about this a little bit more when you come back to class, but I'm going to think about this as the broken promise. And again, I'll explain a little bit more about what that means when you come back to class. In other words, if you clean your room, but mom and dad don't let you play video games, they've broken their promise, and that's why the conditional is false. If you clean your room and they let you play the video games, no broken promises, gotta be true. If you don't clean your room, but mom and dad say, oh, she's such a nice person, I'll let them play video games anyway, no promises have been broken, and that's true. And of course, if you don't clean your room and don't get to play the video games, no promises have been broken, and that's true also. But again, we'll talk a little bit more about this face-to-face when you come back to class. I think about this alphabetical order. The only time the conditional is false is when the truth values are out of alphabetical order. In other words, T does not come before F in the alphabet, and that's why that guy is false. All right, let's go talk a little bit about how to write these in words and find their truth values. First thing I'm going to do, just like always, is given these four sentences or these four statements, I'm going to assign them some truth values. P is a false statement. Q is a true statement. R, Friday has exactly 4 letters, that's a false statement. And S, Earth has 2 moons, is also a false statement. All right, one thing that's difficult for kids sometimes is that they tend to forget that each and every one of these conditionals begins with the word if. So when we see P implies Q or if P then Q, when we go to write this in sentence form, we have to begin with the word if. So if statement P, so if 7 is greater than 11, our connector for the conditional is the word then, Q. And Q says all circles are round. So that's what our statement would look like in sentence form. And now we have to find the truth value. If you read that sentence and you try to think about it too hard, it's going to make your brain hurt. I wouldn't even think about what this means in terms of the real English language. We're going to find its truth value by looking at the truth values of the pieces that make up our sentence and applying the rule for the conditional. So here's what I mean. We said that P was a true statement. We said that Q was a true statement. We know the conditional is only false when these truth values are out of alphabetical order. Since they're not out of alphabetical order, this guy is a true or has a true truth value. So again, when I determine the truth value, I did not even consider what this sentence meant in words at all. In fact, I could find the truth value without even having to write the sentence in words. Let's go see how that might look for number 3. Number 3 says, if P, then not S. We said that P was a false statement. We said that not S, well, if S is false, not S is going to be true. Looking at this truth values, false, or F, comes before T in the alphabet, making the conditional true. Notice that I was able to determine the truth value before I even wrote the sentence in English. Now I'm going to go write the sentence in English. Every conditional starts with the word if. So I'm going to begin my sentence with the word if. If all circles are round, then is my connector that joins my two sentences together, not S. So Earth does not have 2 moons. And again, these sentences are sometimes very silly, very illogical. Don't think too hard about what this sentence means. If you can write this sentence and find that truth value, you're in great shape for everything you need to do for the conditional. All right, let's go ahead and maybe look at one more together. Number 5. Number 5 says, if not P, then S. And again, I'm going to find truth values first before I even think about what the sentence means in words. So not P, because P was a false statement, not P would be a true statement. We said that statement S was false. And here we've got the situation T does not come before F in the alphabet. These truth values are not in alphabetical order. That's the broken promise scenario, making our truth value false. Once I've determined the truth value, now I'm going to go take a look at what this says in sentence form. So if, remember every single one of these starts with the word if 7 is not greater than 11, sorry, not greater than or equal to 11, my connector that joins my two statements together is the word then, Earth has 2 moons. And again, that's a very, very silly sentence. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but as long as you can write the sentence and find the truth value, you're in great shape for the conditional. All right, why don't you go ahead and see what you can do writing the other 3 questions on this page in sentence form and finding their truth value. In the meantime, I'm going to go talk a little bit about hidden conditionals. Hidden conditionals is a conditional that's implied but not necessarily spoken straightforwardly. In other words, sometimes the words if and then don't appear in a sentence, but we know the sentence is still a conditional. So for instance, vote for me and I will fix unemployment. We can rewrite that, or it's understood that that really means if you vote for me, then I will fix unemployment. So again, even though there's no if and then in the original sentence, it's understood that that's really truly a conditional. All right, so in the example it says rewrite each sentence in the if then form. So statement 1 says I will get paid if I go to work. Well, we need each sentence to start with the word if. So if I go to work, my connecting word is then. The result is that I'll get paid. And for the second one, I take medicine when I don't feel well. Well, has to start using the word if. If I don't feel well, the connecting word is then. And as a result of not feeling well, I take my medicine. In the beginning of the video, I talked a little bit about hypothesis and conclusion. And we're going to circle back to that now at this point. Hypothesis is always the beginning part of the sentence. What comes after the word if? So what is the condition or the criteria that needs to be met? In the first example, the criteria that needs to be met is that I go to work. The second example, the criteria that needs to be met is I don't feel well. And then the conclusion is what happens or what occurs as a result of the hypothesis. So as a result of going to work, what occurs, the conclusion is that I get paid. In the second example, what happens as a result of not feeling well is that I take my medicine. So again, the hypothesis is the criteria or the condition that needs to be met. The conclusion is what occurs as a result of the hypothesis. All right, so number one is fairly straightforward. The condition is that Mrs. McCann assigns the homework, and I guess I better go back and follow the directions because the directions say to circle the hypothesis. So that's the condition. What happens as a result of the condition is that you better do the homework. Number two says you can assemble the bicycle if you follow these easy directions. I think it's easier to identify hypotheses and conclusions if you rewrite these in if-then form. So I'm going to say if you follow these easy directions, so my hypothesis is you follow these easy directions. My connector is a then. You can assemble the bike. So my hypothesis or my condition that needs to be met then you can assemble the bike. So my hypothesis, you follow the easy directions. The result or the conclusion is that you are able to assemble the bike. And I'm going to have you go ahead and finish up those examples on page 11. If you have any questions, jot them down and don't be afraid to ask the next time that you come back to class.